So, ladies and gentlemen, he's worn number 12. He has worn number 8 and number 4. Today, he's number 1. Please welcome head coach Trent Dilfer.
That was really good. Really good.
That's yours, man.
That's really good.
Thanks, man. Yeah, man.
I don't know which one's mine. Which water's mine.
Hold on, I'll get it.
We'll figure
You got
it
the
out.
jersey, I got
I
the
got
water.
it.
There you go.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Watts. Thank you, Mark. Thank you to the search committee, the board of trustees, so many people that are entrusting me with a very, very big thing. 8 weeks ago, my wife, my beautiful wife, Cassandra, who you all get to know, and I were sitting there watching our evening TV show after practice was over. And this conversation around going to the NFL or going to college football has kind of been a topic of conversation for years now. And I looked at her and I said, I think we're staying here. I think we found our thing. We're high school football coaches, and we're changing people's lives, and we feel great about doing it. And she looked at me and she said, that's true. She goes, but I want you to rethink that. She goes, you were made for something more, and you've done what you can do with where we're at, and I want you to stretch yourself and start listening. It was shortly after that Mark and I connected, and this journey started. And I'm going to be honest with you, I wouldn't use the word scared. I was skeptical, because I am a high school football coach, and I'm not ashamed of that. But as I started going down this process, and my visionary instincts started taking over, and my incitement, enthusiasm started overwhelming me, I was like, oh my gosh, there's something big out there to do. I like big climbs. I wish I was a better athlete these days. I'd be a mountain climber, because I like looking up at the top of the peak and people saying there's no way you're getting up there, and I would say, let me show you. And that's what we're going to do here at UAB. Everybody can stand up and say, every coach that gets hired in this cycle is going to say the same things. They're going to have the same narratives. They're going to have the same promises. They're going to talk about these giant pie in the sky things that they're going to do in their programs. And then what's going to happen is they're going to get with their teams, and they're going to be so consumed with trying to do what they promised to do that they're going to fail the people that they would do it with. And that's the player. The one thing you'll learn about me is I'm 100% player-centric. It is about the student-athlete. The more you invest in the student-athlete, the more you love the student-athlete, the more you cry with the student-athlete, the more you empathize with the student-athlete, the more you get dirty with the student-athlete and realize these are human beings going through a really tough stage of their life, and they need people to come around them and love them and support them and help them grow. Or guess what? That starts happening, and the overflow of that becomes unbelievable performance in the things they're passionate about. See, I'm a contrarian. I told the team this a few minutes ago. I said, right now in football, many people say you have to make a choice. You have to be great at football, and you're going to sacrifice some other things. Or you can be great at development, and then you'll sacrifice wins and losses. I think they're wrong. I believe you can be elite in both. In fact, I think they mirror each other. I think the more you pour into a student athlete, the more you pour into a coach, the more you have professional standards for them off the field, the more that translates onto the field. And yes, we will have professional standards. I don't have a lot of rules. I have very high standards. We will leave places better than we found them. That's not just rooms, that's environments. When our student athletes leave a place, the place will leave better, because the energy, the enthusiasm, the effort that they'll exert when they're there. We will serve like you've never seen a group of people serve. Because when you learn to serve one another, you trust one another. When you learn to give and not take, you become closer. These are principles that the greatest coaches of all time have used. They've just been washed away through these narratives of winning overall. Please understand me, it's a hard journey. Like I said, it's a giant mountain. But I think the college football playoff is something we should talk about. But you talk about the college football playoff, we're talking about cleaning your locker and making your bed and going to class and participating in class and doing great homework. When you're asked to write an essay, write a great essay. By learning how to get up in front of a group of people and speak. By running every sprint 2 yards past the finish line. By running to the ball every single time it's snapped. By over-communicating. By when your buddy needs a ride, you jump out of bed and you go get him. When your teammate's hurting, you put your arm around him and say, buddy, what can I do for you? That gets us to the college football playoff. Recruiting is a huge part of it. We will learn to recruit at an elite level. I'd be lying to tell you if I knew how to recruit at an elite level. That would be crap. That would be a lie, right? Never done it. But we're about to get really good at it. I'll hire people that have been great at it in the past. But recruiting to me is a different narrative. Recruiting to me is connecting. We'll connect with our current student athletes on our roster now in a way that will help them feel and trust us at an early age. They're losing a man they truly, truly believe in. Talking to those players today, you could see the pain in their eyes. They love Coach Vincent. They love that staff. And I said, I want to honor that. I want to help them finish strong. But I also hope to earn their trust as we go through this together, because great things are coming. So we'll connect with our current roster and we'll recruit them. We'll recruit and connect with great people, the donor base, coaches, and then we'll get on the road and we'll connect at a deep level with the high school coaches in the Southeast. I've already had many of them reach out to me today, Coach Freeman, Coach Kelly, and others, and they want to give me the line. I said, Coach, I will get down there and we're going to connect and we're going to break bread, and I wanted to get to know everything about you and your program. The player aspect will come later. We're going to be authentic. We're going to be truth tellers in these young men's lives, and we're going to love them beyond the way they've been loved before by coaches. I probably should have written down notes because I can go. My wife's laughing because she's going, uh-oh, he's getting going here. I want to open up for some questions because we can go a lot of different directions. This promise I will make. I'll make very few promises, but this promise I will make. You will get the best of me. You'll get the best of a 42-year-old football life that's had some of the greatest people in the game influence them. None more than my dad, who's sitting right there, who started me on this football journey on the back of a blocking sled. But I've been shaped by some of the greatest football minds that have ever coached. And you will get the very best of me. I will be relentless in my work ethic. I will be passionate about what I do. I will love and serve this campus with everything that I have. My family will be completely invested, and you'll get the very best. The net of that, I believe, will be an era of UAB football that many couldn't possibly imagine. I said the same things when I took this little high school job in Middle Tennessee, and people thought I was crazy. Tomorrow, we're about to do something pretty special. I hope you follow it. It should be on TV. Once that thing's over, I'm yours, and you'll get the very best of me. Thank you very much.
You do have a question, please raise your hand and use this microphone.
Coach, welcome. Ryan
Thank you.
Hennessy, WVTM, NBC here in Birmingham.
Yes.
You came on campus. It's a football state. There's no secret about that. The facility's beautiful, brand new stadium. You look at schools like a Cincinnati that was in the college football pick. Mark and you were talking about it. Did you know from the outside about UAB? Did you know about Bill Clark? Did you know about the program being shut down? And what do you think? Does this have all the ingredients to be something really special that nationally people will say UAB football and think of not just you, but everyone else?
Absolutely, and I'm glad you led me that direction with Coach Clark and Coach Vincent. You know, the foundation here is insanely solid. You mentioned some of it: facilities, investment, donor base. I would say this: the president. I always say this. I should have led with this. We said we would never do the college unless there was two things that were there: a president that was all about excellence, and a football AD that understood the impact of the game. Not that it's more important than any other sport. Please, I have 3 daughters that play Division I sports. Okay, so I don't think football is more important than anything. I think it's most impactful. I think it impacts a community, it impacts a city, it impacts a campus as much as anything. It's the front porch in many places. So I appreciate the two of them because they have the same core values that I have. What Coach Clark did here is incredible. I've known Bill. We were texting actually a few days ago. He had no idea this was going on. We were texting about a speaking engagement at one of his functions. I had a friend who walked on here. He trusted me with a friend's friend that walked on here and played here for a little while. His reputation is impeccable. And then Coach Vincent, what he's been able to do this year, despite some really difficult circumstances, has left this thing with such a strong foundation. I was telling the story, I think, to Mark or the committee. I'm like, think of, who's built a house here, right? If you've ever built a house, you lay the foundation and it's not real pretty, right? And then you start to get the framing up and the drywall goes up and you're like, okay, I start to see it. But it really doesn't feel like a home until you get the fancy appliances and you paint the walls the way you want them and the interior decorator comes in, or the wife just goes and spends a lot of money on interior decorating. But like right here, you're walking into something that's a really pretty house. Like it's got a great foundation, a lasting foundation. It's solid. And all you're really doing is adding fancy upgrades to it to make it elite. So it's not a rebuild. It's not even a remodel. It's a beautification of something that's already pretty darn good looking.
Hey, Coach. Welcome to Birmingham. Johnny Condon, ABC 3340 Sports, right here in Birmingham. My question to you is, for someone that played at the highest level, had a really good gig at ESPN for a long time, getting to be around some of the best players and coaches and traveling. It was a pretty good life. Why did you have the calling to coach, to take that high school job in Tennessee? And what is it about being a head football coach that really drawed you to this position?
We're going to get along well because you guys are filling in the gaps of all the things I forgot to say in the opening statement. I played golf 218 times in 2018. There's retirement, and then there's how I was retired. I was still getting paid by ESPN. Had kind of the golden parachute when I left. We'd moved to Austin, Texas. We basically chased our daughters around playing volleyball. And I was living the life. And I'd be lying to say it wasn't fun. It was a lot of fun. It wasn't fulfilling. And what we learned, and what I think my wife has seen in me, what my kids have seen in me, is I'm at my best when I'm climbing. I'm at my best when things are hard. I'm at my best when my back's against the wall. I'm at my best when things are chaotic. I'm at my best when people say I can't. And I wasn't at my best. I had gotten soft. In fact, I had become a hypocrite because I was not living the life that I had shared with so many young people around the country about what gets the best out of us. And I was called to this job in Nashville, and it was perfect because it made 0 sense. It made 0 sense to go take a place that had 38 kids, 6 lifted with a PVC pipe when I got there. The first lift when I got there, 6 of them were in the corner with a PVC pipe learning how to hang clean. So you had 32 guys that could lift a bar in the program. They were running out of bounds not to tackle the opponent in the first half. Our rival would give 400-plus yards rushing, and our kids were running out of bounds not to tackle a freshman running back. It gets better. 9 seniors didn't dress the year before on senior night, and none of them were hurt. So when I say it was a dust bowl, it was a dust bowl. It made no sense. I cried the first time I watched the film. I took the job. I didn't know what my salary was, and I had never watched the film. That's a calling. I cried when we watched the film because I looked at my offensive coordinator, Trenton Kirkland, who now is at Vanderbilt, and I said, we're never getting a first down. Ever. We started recruiting the basketball team. We started having lunch with the teachers. We started meeting the moms. We started being honest with the people about what football is. My wife bought helmets for the entire team so they'd be safe and the moms would trust that football wasn't dangerous. And we just got dirty with their lives. We just became part of the community. The football was an overflow of it because then they trusted us. And what I learned, to answer your question, this is what we call a Dilfer answer, a story of an answer. What I learned in that was my marriage was better. I was a better father. I was more compassionate. My friendships got better. I was a better version of me when things were hard. And it's been brutally hard. And I hope you understand this is going to be really hard and it's going to be really uncomfortable. There's only 2 things that will sit behind my desk, all these 2 signs behind my desk. One is at the edge of uncomfortable is where you find greatness, and the other one will say do hard things. We do enough hard things, we're uncomfortable enough, and we do it the right way, and greatness will flow from that. And that's what I've seen happen at the program I'm at, and that's what I'll see happen here.
Speaking on Clark's Foundation, one of the great traditions that UAB has started was honoring patients at Children's Harbor. I imagine this is a tradition you would embrace fully, considering the experience you've had.
Yes, thank you again for leading me down another good direction. Yes, I'm just learning about this. Marcus told me about this. It excited me. For those of you who don't know, my wife and I lost a son when he was 5.5. I usually don't cry. I think I'm going to be okay. I cried a lot this morning with my team, so I think they might be gone. Trevin was our second. Our first, Madeline, is in the back with my grandson. Trevin was our second. He died, ironically, of a virus that attacked his heart. And then we have Tori and Delaney after him. So we've had to live through the pain of that tragedy. Please don't ever feel uncomfortable talking to me about it. It's actually therapeutic for me to talk about it. So you can ask me about my son. It's not gonna be weird. I enjoy this type of question, but yes, I think what happens when you go through this type of pain is you develop a capacity to love that you never knew you had. We all have a capacity to love our kids, right? Our immediate family. When you lose something like this, you develop a capacity to love people that are hurting as well. And we will love on those families, and we will definitely be an active part of that. You'll see this team, and I don't want to make a bunch of promises, but the first thing we'll do is we'll dive into service. These guys need to learn how to serve. They need to learn how to be givers instead of takers. Every young student athlete needs to learn that. I wish I would have learned it earlier. You learn how to be a giver instead of a taker, and all of a sudden magic happens within your organization.
You talked a little bit earlier about the recruiting aspect
Yeah.
of it, that you haven't been through that, but how much advantage is it to be, I mean, you've been through it on the other side with your players, with,
I have some of the best players in the country.
Yeah, Elite 11 and that type of thing. How much do you think that's going to help, moving forward?
Massively. You'll hear me say this a lot. This is one of my hiring principles is I will hire people that have figured outness. Yes, I made up that word. Webster's is approving it as we speak. No, I honestly think I made it up on TV one night when I was tired at ESPN and people laughed, but it meant something. Like, I want people that can figure stuff out, okay? I consider myself somebody who can figure stuff out. I figured a lot out of the recruiting process through Elite 11. We would sit, and the opening, don't forget that I was the head coach of the opening as well, the 156 best players in the country that I would sit with every summer at Nike's world headquarters. So you sit at those tables, and my daughters have been there with me, my wife's been there with me, and you'd be hearing these stories of the recruitment, and I'd just be in awe. And then at the same time, I'm working at ESPN, so I'm working with Coach Mack, and I'm working with all these college guys, and they're telling me recruiting stories. So I kind of got a glossary understanding of it. And then I came, and we started developing these players, and, this is an arbitrary number, but I bet you off this year's team that's going to play tomorrow, there's 28 to 35 college football players. We have the number one corner, the number one linebacker, blah, 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 blah. But walking through their recruitment with them, I've learned a lot. I've met a lot of great coaches through it. Again, when you come on Lipscomb's campus as a recruiter, you're treated, whether it's Nick Saban or Nick Johnny, who's a first-time recruiter, you're treated exactly the same, and we sit down and we talk and we ask questions and we get to know about their program and we ask about their families, and again, we try to connect with them. So I've learned a lot about which coaches can recruit and which coaches can't, which coaches recruiting is a transactional experience, which ones is a connection for them, which ones you can trust and which ones you can't, which ones are going just trying to accumulate talent and which ones are trying to find the right fit. So we've learned a lot about that. I've taken a ton of notes. I've thought through it a lot. But again, I'll be figuring it out. Now, I will hire guys that have done it at the highest level. I'm not going to go to this thing and just have 10 on-field coaches that have never recruited. We'll hire coaches that have recruited at a high level. But I'll hire some guys that will be like me, that we're figuring it out on the fly. But we'll figure it out really quick.
I know you've got one last job to do in Tennessee, but can you talk about the sense of urgency with the transfer portal opening up on Monday, and also what's your vision for that as it dovetails with NIL?
That's a great question. I don't think there's a sense of urgency, and hold off on this. I think the sense of urgency is getting here to support Coach Vincent and his staff and these young men on finishing what they started. And I really believe that. Now I'm gonna establish relationships with these players. That's why I'll be here. I'll come back down tomorrow after the game, and I really won't leave except for one little trip I got to make up to Nashville for my banquet of all things. But my objective is to first connect with the players on this roster and make sure that, one, I get the opportunity to earn their trust. I want to earn their trust. I want to earn your trust. I want to earn their trust. I mean, anybody can give this press conference, by the way. I mean, I did this on TV, and you get these guys get up there and like, wow, they won the press conference. And I'm like, that guy doesn't know squat about football. And none of that's going to happen, what he just said. I mean, I'd sit there at ESPN watching these press conferences going, 2 years max, right? So anybody can do this, right? They hire these PR guys with these new coaches that are hired to say all the right things and impress you all and get you all excited. The proof's in the pudding. And the proof for me is I'm going to get here, I'm going to get my hands dirty, I'm going to meet people, I'm going to love people, I'm going to serve this coaching staff until they're gone. And I mean that. I told Coach Vincent today, you have a project, put me on it. Right? You got something you need me to do to help you guys win this bowl game? I'm in. I'm here to support them. But as that's happening, I'm going to learn this roster, right? I'm going to start recognizing, I'm going to understand what their board looks like, who they're recruiting. I played against some of these players this year, right? We came down and we played Thompson. We came down to Georgia and we played Milton. We studied the tape of the high school programs they had played. So I've seen a lot of Alabama football. I've seen a lot of Georgia football. And I want to see how this board stacked up. I want to know their philosophies in recruiting, how they've targeted certain players, what traits they look for, how much does the off-field stuff filter into the on-field recruiting. So to say that, how can I say I'm going to do all that and then on the 5th be like, oh, we're going after the portal, man? Like, I think that's what's happened with the portal is people get so excited about brands because they were a 4-star, they were a 5-star, they went here, they wore that brand when they went to college, and now they're in the portal, and because you went to Alabama and because you are an offensive lineman, you must be amazing. Let's push our brakes. Let's evaluate them. Let's see if they have the traits that we're looking for. Let's see if an offensive lineman has recoverability. It's the number one trait you look for in an offensive lineman. Let's make sure their length metrics are right. Let's make sure their short area quickness is right. Not just that some recruiting place gave them a ranking. So I think, I was telling Mark, Frank Reich texted me some great advice. Part of it, I shared with Mark, and I'll share this part. He said, trust your instincts, but take your time. And I'm going to approach recruiting that way. There's a lot of good football players on this team. There's a lot of young football players in this team that need to be developed at a higher level, and we're going to do that. My priority is to get the most out of what's on this team, supplement it with high school recruiting because that becomes a foundation, and then fill in pieces through the portal.
Trent, right here. Joe Goodman, AL.com.
Hey, Joe.
So I've covered UAB football for a long time, back when they coached out of a dentist office. And this is all extremely insane right now. Do you think this is crazy? Like, it seems crazy.
You know, I don't know the history as well as as I will. Mark has, you know, as in our time together, has shared with me some of the stuff, the crooked football field and, you know, sloped. The challenges that Bill had, football coming back, the group of amazing people that were behind that, the collective, Coach Dr. Watts's leadership through that process. I want to know more about it. So again, I'd be a liar to stand up here and say I'm well versed in it. I know this. I know if you're in the Southeast, you have a president that cares about excellence and an AD that understands the impact of football and a donor base that wants football to be good, you can be really good. So whatever the brand is on the jersey, I think this has an opportunity to be one of the best. I do think you're going to see the Power Five start having the elites of the Power Fives and then the ones that aren't meeting it. I think a UAB, a mid-major, a program like this can immediately start dominating those Power Five schools that aren't becoming elite. I do think that can happen rather quickly.
And just to follow up, Did you have to convince Mark? Did he have to convince you? Like, how did that even happen?
I'll let Mark answer that on his side. I was looking for fit. I was looking for affirmation. I was looking for, this is a big esoteric word, but calling again, you know, that this was something bigger than just football. My wife and I were driving down here today, and we were joking about the different cities that we've been in, that my career has taken us. And I think one of the things I'm really proud of, and you won't hear me pat myself on the back very often, but I will say this: every place we left was way better than when we got there. Because we dive in, we get dirty, we serve, we want to see the cities, the communities get better that we live in. And this was a community that was really attractive to me, as well as a university and a program. Is that fair? It seemed a little out there, but get what I'm saying? All right.
All right, Coach. Jen Cardone from CBS 42.
Hi, Jen.
I think you just started to answer this a little bit, but what makes UAB so appealing and the city of Birmingham to you?
It's a sleeping giant from a football standpoint. From a city standpoint, it's got a lot to offer. It's beautiful, for one. You know, we've driven through, we've driven around it. It's beautiful. We've fallen in love with the Southeast. You know, we're California via a bunch of different places in my career, a stop off in Austin, and get into Nashville. We're like, whoa, we really like this. We know some people down here, they rave about it. And I think anytime you're in a city that has a lot of diversity, there's a chance to be a unifier in that city. And every city in America right now, I told the team this, when was the last time you turned on your guys' stations and you felt good about what's going on? Right? Like, I don't know many of us that turn on the news at night and go, wow, our world's in an awesome place. Like, man, people are so happy and people are getting along and we're unified and we're going the same direction. I don't see that very often, right? I want to be a catalyst to help that happen in every community that I'm in. And we've done it in Middle Tennessee, and that will be the goal, to do it here as well.